Yesterday we had Dr. Kristen Messelman join us and talk to us about spinal cord injury and how the population tends to be at increased risk for fall. It's actually a really big problem that's not often talked about, so it's great to learn more about that. Today we have Dr. Tilak Dutta talk to us about staying active and how it can be challenging staying active, and what are some different things we can do to address barriers people experience in staying active. So I'll pass it on to him.
Thanks, Christiane. So we've been going through these talks over the past little while, and hopefully if people have been watching a series of these, you'll see that they're getting a little bit better. The first few, the lighting was dark. We lost the sound on a couple of them, but they've been getting, hopefully you'll see they've been getting better and better. We're trying something a little different again today. And, you know, we call it Fall Prevention Month, but if it was up to me, I would actually call it Fall Prevention and Encouraging Safe Activity Month, because I think these two things are so closely linked. I think it's important that we take some time to think about how we encourage people to stay active, because I think it's so closely related to preventing falls. So let's just look at that issue, and we'll go back to kind of the scenario that we talk about quite a bit in this area. When I think about this, I always think about the older couple that's living at home. The husband maybe has come home from the hospital. What is their life going to suddenly look like? The wife in this case has to suddenly become a primary caregiver, help this gentleman out of bed, into his wheelchair, make sure he doesn't fall, obviously. But they also need to make sure that he stays as active as they can be. And that includes not only exercise, which would be great, but even independent mobility. Can he get up from his bed, get into his wheelchair by himself, get to the bathroom, the activities of daily living? If he can do those things independently, it means he will be a lot healthier and a lot better off in the long run. And so what are the barriers to those kinds of things for a couple like that? That's what we're going to look at today. And I'm going to argue that inactivity really is as dangerous as a fall, because we know, you know, it's this use it or lose it idea. We start to lose health incredibly quickly if we become inactive. Something like 1 to 3% of our muscle strength every day that we're inactive, if we're stuck in bed for a long time, we lose blood volume, all sorts of bad things start to happen. And so we really need to find ways of keeping people as active as possible, as quickly as possible, if we have an injury or an illness. It can mean something like that can be as simple as giving someone, if they spend a lot of time in bed, giving them a pole that they can use to get up in and out of bed themselves. So this gentleman started off his journey after his stroke in a hospital in Parry Sound, where he needed the help of a clinician to come and lift him or to help him in and out of his bed into his wheelchair. And so it was he told us how much he loved being here at Toronto Rehab, where he had access to this pole. It's a product that our team has developed called Stand Easy. And it's a simple pole that allows him to support himself getting in and out of bed, and he's demonstrating the use here. He was really proud of this green page above his bed here, the sign that indicates that he's independently mobile. And he wants to get a similar system for home use when he has the chance. So he's really excited about our other line of products called the Move Easy Kit, which he wants to get and put in his home so that he can be as mobile as he was here. So this is that kit, the Move Easy Kit. It's made up of Pressurefit Poles. So that means that you tighten nuts at the top of these poles and they expand between the ceiling and the floor, and without any screws or drilling holes into things, you can put up some sturdy grab bars that someone can use to get themselves out of bed, like we were talking about, or you can clip horizontal rails across a series of these and maybe create a safe passage for someone to hold on a sturdy handrail all the way from the bedroom to the bathroom, for instance, making that activity that could have required the help of a caregiver to come and do that, that person can now move independently. So those are and the change in the person's mobility and overall health will be huge as a result of something as simple as that. For my mom, some people may only require, she has a bit of arthritis in her knees. She just needs one of these poles by her toilet, and it helps her get on and off the toilet. Other products that could be helpful for toileting, The product that came out of this lab, Jeff Fernie developed with Andy Hart, is a product called Toylevator, which raises the toilet a few inches. So if you have arthritis of the hips or knees and it's difficult to get on and off of a low toilet, you can put something, well, there's two solutions really. One is to put something on top of the toilet, the more commonly used solution. But what happens to this thing when someone else needs to use the toilet? Where does it go? How do you keep it clean? Lots of questions around the use of that one. It is cheaper than this solution, but it also looks a little stranger and people don't like the way it looks in their bathroom. Whereas a product like this, it makes the whole toilet look more natural, cleaner, and it's a more effective solution, we think. And the idea is, of course, that it just raises the toilet up a little bit. The other problem with bathrooms and toileting that our team has seen, and this is part of some of the home visits that we've done, which are part of the home care project, where we try to go into people's homes and try to understand what their biggest problems are in caring for people. What we found is this bathroom was a gentleman who uses this bathroom used a walker, but the space between the toilet and the tub was so small that he couldn't get in there with his walker, and so he needed to wait for a caregiver to come before he could toilet. And so that prompted us to think about this scenario and how common a problem this can be for people, where you have limited space in a bathroom, which makes it difficult for to get assistive devices in there, and it makes it difficult for a caregiver, if you're in there, to be able to support that activity. So here's a picture of someone, for instance, using a walker. The idea we came up with was, could we take Toylevator, which raises the toilet, take that product and adapt it a little bit further and actually allow us to shift the position of the toilet by putting a soil pipe that goes out the side. We call that Toylocator, and that's a product that we're now prototyping and testing out to see if it has some value. But again, if we can let that person make use of his walker to independently transfer in and out of the bathroom without having to wait for his caregiver, we think he's going to be much better off. What about the winter? You know, we think a lot about, we talked a little bit about the use of a walker in a bathroom, and we talked about staying active. We think that to be healthy, to be able to live healthy, a long life at home, you actually have to be able to get outside, and you have to get out to get to your grocery store and doctor's appointments, visit with friends. Unfortunately, in Canada, we get a lot of snow, and some of the tools that we've developed don't work that well in the winter once there's snow on the ground, and walkers, I think, fit into that category. And if you ask the question, do older adults have the tools they need to stay active year-round? Unfortunately, the answer is no. They don't. This is not necessarily a particularly effective solution. Neither is this. So wheelchairs and scooters don't really work that well once we get snow on the ground. And so our team tries to think about what we can do to improve those solutions, because what we know is that people stop going outside once there's snow on the ground. And that means that people are becoming inactive, and that period of time when they become sedentary, they feel trapped at home because of the bad weather, that's something that is hurting our health. One of the kind of crazy ideas we have is that maybe intersections should actually be redesigned. So we've all seen this sort of thing. We talked a little bit about this on a previous talk. I'll go into detail. I have some models with me to give you this idea a little bit clearer. If we have our conventional sidewalk design, where the sidewalk comes down to meet the road, so you have a curb ramp, so the person has to walk along. This is an exaggerated image, but hopefully you can see that the person would have to go down a curb ramp to cross the road. That design, we think, might be inherently bad for a place that has snow and ice and water that can collect at the base of this thing and create an icy ramp surface and a dangerous surface for someone to have to walk across, and kind of blocking the area that we actually want to walk on. We have an alternative idea that we want to test out, that is this model. So instead of the person having to cross down onto the road, now the cars would drive up a slight rise to enter an intersection and then go back down as they exit the intersection, but pedestrians would walk across on the level. in this sort of idea. So the whole center of the intersection could be raised. So we don't know if this is necessarily a practical solution for every, all the problems that we face. We want to test it out, and there's actually a counselor from the city of Toronto, Josh Matlow, who is interested in finding us an intersection that we could repave and test this idea out. So we would monitor it for a year previously, so with the conventional design, and then switch over to this design. It would be an intersection that would be repaved anyways, and so we would test it with and without and see what the problems might be with that. We think there are a lot of positives here. You'd be able to clear snow from the sidewalks much more effectively. Like a snowplow could clear all of these areas much nicer, and so the area that you're actually trying to access by pedestrians and wheelchair users and walkers would be much clearer. So that's one idea that we want to test out. The other thing that we're thinking about, and we alluded to this in Allison's talk earlier on, people who have vision deficits, so with poor vision, and tripping on sidewalks where we have bumps or cracks. One of our hypotheses is that some of the biggest cracks that get the most attention may not be the ones that cause the most accidents, and that's because people can see the big cracks really easily. Our vision, it's people with poor vision that maybe can't see the finer problems, the finer things that are maybe only 2 or 3 millimeters in size. And older adults who have low foot clearance as they're walking along may not see these changes and catch their feet on them. So we're looking at, we have a project right now that makes use of a very simple rig that has some laser pointers and a video camera. And the idea is that this thing would shoot people as they walk across on a sidewalk. We'll find areas that have different size sort of bumps and discontinuities, and these laser diodes will help us understand how close they come to those discontinuities to understand what risk they actually are at for falling. And so we can measure very carefully, and we can note did this look like an older person? Was it someone who is engrossed in their cell phone? Looking at sort of characteristics of the person as well as the environment to understand what are the real sizes of these cracks and bumps that we have to be worried about. Then once we know that, we can go ahead and make sure we fix the ones that cause the most problems. You had talked about Winter Lab already, footwear testing. I'll just briefly go over this in case anyone hasn't seen this yet. So we know that footwear, the challenge is right now that the footwear that you buy in the store, you don't know how well it's going to work until you actually test it. So we've developed a testing method where we found that some footwear will only do, a 2 or 3 degree angle on this wet ice surface in our Winter Lab simulator. This is Jeff Fernie, by the way, who's responsible for developing all these simulators. If we go to boot 2, we can see the big difference. So between boot 1 and boot 2, where one of the boots was only able to do a 2 degree incline, another boot is able to do a much steeper incline. You'll see in this case we can do, instead of a, hi there, join us. So in this case, you see the big difference between footwear that we have available between a 2 degree incline. In this case, we have another pair of footwear there's a 20 degree incline. We're trying to understand the material properties of the rubber that help us develop these footwear so that we can get even better. And then you and Jeff are working to develop labeling for footwear, just like our snow tires have labels on them that tell us that this material has been tested and performs really well in that on snow and ice. We want the same thing for shoes, and we have some footwear manufacturers that are working with us on that, including Mark's Work Warehouse. But the challenge is that it's still difficult to get your shoes on, right? So we have a couple of projects where some students have been working with us to figure out better ways to make shoes easier to get on and off, because we know that one of the biggest challenges to getting out the door may be getting all of your winter gear on and getting your footwear on and everything. So we want to make sure that footwear that actually works well is also easier to get on. And this is a simple magnetic closure idea that some of our students have had, some undergrad students working with us have had it, that could have some promise, and we're going to bring that to some of our footwear manufacturers to see if we can look at that market. The last project I wanted to bring up is, it's really a falls monitoring system. And this is something really to help with people who are living at home by themselves and are moving around by themselves. If there's a caregiver in that scenario, so that they can go off to work or not have to be there all the time, and know that if there was a fall, that this would call for help. The idea is that this might be something that looks very much like a smoke detector, and it has an artificial intelligence system in it with a camera that watches to make sure that people haven't fallen. And if they do fall, it starts talking to them. Or if it thinks someone's fallen, it starts talking to them, asking you, are you okay? Do you need help? And you can simply say, yes, I need help. I would like, I've fallen. And it will call either, and it'll give you a choice of who to call. So a neighbor or your daughter, or 911 if you want. And it'll open up a conference call between all those people if you want, so that you can figure out how to solve the problem. So it's better. We think that this is a better solution than the buttons that we have to call for help, because those buttons sometimes, even if people have the systems, either they aren't wearing them or they're unable to activate them. Something like 75% of the time that a fall happens in a scenario like that, they don't actually activate the system. And so we think a system like this that's always there is a better solution. So that's it for my my kind of keeping active. Oh, feel free to join in here. Yeah, just finishing up here. Next, we're doing another one tomorrow. Yeah. But you can, did you catch anything that you had questions on? Oh, good. Good, thanks. Thanks. The Toylevators are available online on Amazon. Yes, they are. Yeah. I think the last time I checked, I think it was around $80 is what they seem to be listed for on Amazon. Yeah. So it needs to be a floor-mounted toilet, but I think it was designed to match all of the different styles of toilet and the different styles of pipe that you might have. So as long as it comes out from the ground, yeah, it should work. Yeah, yes, right. That's right. Yeah, good. Thanks so much. The polls are all, yes, online, easy range. So we have a flyer at the back for that. Yeah.
Great presentation.
Thanks so much, Sue. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Oh, thanks very much for joining us. Good stuff. I don't know.
You could just see it tomorrow.
Okay. So tomorrow's talk, I'm not sure who's on for tomorrow. Maybe we should check the schedule.
Okay.
I'll let you. Yeah.
So thank you, Tilak. Tomorrow we have Marla Beauchamp and Sashi Ohoski, I believe, talking to us about chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and how that population is at increased risk for falls. I also want to talk about our tours. The next tour we have happening is on Thursday. And this is going to be a special tour because we're going to be doing a special stop at Falls Lab. Falls Lab is a two-dimensional motion platform that we have here at Toronto Rehab that we use for testing balance. And so people who attend the tour will have the opportunity to test out the platform for themselves. The platform will move a little bit in a sudden way, and you will probably lose your balance a little bit, and you'll be able to see how well you're able to recover from your balance, from that loss of balance. And you will be harnessed in, so you don't have to worry about falling or hurting yourself. All right, so please join us again tomorrow, and then come for a tour on Thursday. Thank you.